Hey guys, it's me. We are here with week 23 of our orchestra. I can't believe it's already that time of year again, but we are almost through with our year. So we have, I'm just going to try to do kind of a brief video for you guys. I hope that last week's you were able to see, and if not, please contact me. It's up on YouTube and there's the link on Slack. But I'm going to kind of go a different direction. We've been talking about our composers. We've been talking about our time periods for the last 4 weeks. And we're going to just take a little bit of a slightly different direction this week. I hope you enjoy it. Just a quick review. We've discussed the classical, just the end of the classical period, but mostly the romantic period of the arts for this cycle. We've hit... we hit Beethoven, Brahms, and Dvorak for our composers, and we did we really listened to Symphony Number 5 by Ludwig van Beethoven, which was Symphony Number 5. We did Symphony Number 4 by Johannes Brahms, and then last week I did the video about Antonin Dvorak, and we listened to Serenade for Strings, and I hope that you guys were able to pull up those videos. This week, we also talked about the string section of the orchestra, and I wanted to delve just a little bit more into the instruments and the orchestra itself, and I had a string demo lined up, and I hope that we're able to still do that sometime. But this week I want to talk just a little bit about woodwinds. If you remember, our 4 instrument families are the strings, the woodwinds, the brass, and the percussion. And we talked last week about how strings are, we had our violin, our viola, our cello, our bass, and our harp. And a stringed instrument is basically an instrument that has a body and has usually metal strings that are strung tightly over the body of that instrument, and they either are plucked or played by the bow, and it creates the vibrations on that string, and makes for the length of the strings and the tightness of them have everything to do with the sound and the tone that it produces. This week I wanted to talk just a little bit about woodwinds, and this is gonna be bad. I'm just gonna go ahead and warn y'all. I played flute. I started when I was in the 4th or 5th grade, so I would have been 9, 10, 11, somewhere in there. And I played the flute and the piccolo through high school. I didn't march in the marching band because I didn't want to do the fundraisers. But I did play in the band in high school, and I played a little in college for church and stuff, but that was when it kind of started to be something that wasn't my priority. So I do have a flute and a piccolo to show you guys, but just be warned that I haven't played it in forever. So that's my disclaimer on that. But one thing I wanted to, hold on, I'm thirsty. To tell you, and I mentioned this a couple weeks ago about woodwind instruments, okay, is that there is a basic 6-finger fingering code for all woodwinds that once you kind of learn how to do that, you can pretty much play any woodwind instrument, which is really cool because you guys have already been learning a woodwind instrument. If you don't realize that, which is the tin whistle. This is my tin whistle from when I was a lot younger. It looks different. It's a little bit smaller than you guys's because it's keyed to the key of A, and y'all's is in the key of D. So I couldn't play it with you and be in the same key because the size penny whistles are only tin whistle. Penny whistle is another name for it, but I bought this when I was at a shop in college, and it sounds a lot like you guys's, but if you look, you have your normal 6-finger 6 holes just like your tin whistle, and it sounds a lot the same. So with any woodwind instrument, you're putting wind into the instrument. Okay, a lot of the instruments are made of wood. A lot of the woodwinds are, which is why they're called woodwinds, but not all of them. Some of them are metal, like this one. A flute is metal, a saxophone is metal. But you have, let's see. I got a picture of a flute, but I'm going to show you a real flute, so I'll hold that. This is a picture of a clarinet. Okay, so that's made of wood. All this black is painted wood, and it's got the keys, and they look a little bit more complicated. I'm going to try to hold that up a little better. They look more complicated, but it's still the basic 6 fingers of your tin whistle, and you have to learn to. There's a reed on the back of that clarinet. You have to learn to blow it just right, but it's a woodwind with using those 6 holes just like your tin whistle. And so that's a clarinet. Here's a bass clarinet, and that is basically the same kind of thing. It's just a lot larger, and so they have to curve the body because it's really big, and so it makes a much lower sound than your normal clarinet. It actually has a dip a little bit like a saxophone, and this will rest on the floor. But a bass clarinet, you don't see these quite as often, but that's another woodwind. Let's see. We've got an oboe, which is our double reed. Several of you guys have talked about your reed instruments, and those are your woodwinds. Clarinets have reeds, and oboes have reeds, and I think Miss Jessica brought in an oboe last year and showed you guys. But right up here, you've got all your keys, and like I said, it looks a lot more complicated, but it's still your basic 6 fingering. And then you've got a double reed, and what this is you have to wet that, and you blow between the reeds, kind of like if you were to hold a piece of grass between your thumb, if you've ever done that, or blow on a piece of paper. Those 2 reeds vibrate, and it splits the stream of air that you're blowing into it, basically. I know that sounds weird, but it creates a sound, and that's how woodwinds actually produce their sound, is by the splitting of that stream of air into that instrument. Now, there are several more woodwinds. There's a bassoon, there's different types of oboes. There's a English horn, which looks a lot like an oboe, but it's got like kind of a bell shape on the bottom rather than this flat shape. And then this is a contrabassoon, which is a really, really big, low bassoon, and it's a double reed instrument as well. I don't know if you can tell. And it looks even more complicated, but it's just because the pipe of that body has to wrap all the way around, because it's just so big. If it was a straight pipe, it would be so long you wouldn't be able to get in and out of the room. And so they have to wrap this around a little bit. But that's the length of this pipe here makes for a deeper and lower sound. But again, it's still just the 6 fingers. And when I say 6 fingers, remember, I'm talking about 3 on this hand, 3 on this hand, right? And so you've got basically 6 holes, and that's the primary thing. Now, on these woodwind instruments, you use your thumbs and your pinkies a little bit for different things, but there's still a basic 6-hole fingering. And so all of these have that in common, is they all use that same 6-hole base for their instruments. Now I have here, and I'm going to show you these instead of showing you the picture, just because I think it's more interesting. This is my flute. This is an open hole flute, and it's just a little bit nicer of a quality than kind of the basic one that you'll get when you first started, because I did, do a lot more with the flute. But when I play it, I still cover up, and you can kind of see these keys. They have springs, and you press down on the keys, and here's where my pinky would go. And there's springs and levers, and so when I press this pinky key, it opens up this one back here. So there's a lot of little buttons and keys on this guy, which is very similar to what those other instruments look like. But again, you still have, look at this, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, your basic 6-fingering. Now I put my thumb back, kind of keep it in the video, put my thumb back here or here depending on the key. I put my pinky on this, I put my pinky on this, but you still have your basic 6-key fingering, okay? Let me see if I can play, just to let you guys hear what it sounds like. This is the mouthpiece. We don't blow straight into it. we actually blow across it. And you can do this by getting like a Coke bottle or something, and you can get the different levels of the sound actually by how high you fill the water in that bottle. But if you blow across a Coke bottle, you're going to produce a very similar effect to the flute. But this little edge of this mouthpiece, what you're doing is blowing across the mouthpiece, and there's a lip plate, so you can kind of put it up against your lip right here. It goes right there on your lip. And you put it up against your lip right there, and you're blowing across here. And right this edge right here is splitting that sound, just like the reeds, just like the clarinets. And it's creating, just like the fipple on your your tin whistle. That's what it's doing, is it's dividing that air. And when, for some reason, the vibrations, when the air that you blow hits it and hits that splitter, it creates a really cool sound. And so I'm going to try to play a little for you guys. I'm so sorry. It's been a long time. Let me see. Can you hear that? And I'm going to move this just a little bit so you can see what my fingers are doing. Sorry, my screen is kind of not wide. Let me see if I can see. So I'm just moving my fingers across there, just like you would on your tin whistle when you're playing Mary Had a Little Lamb or whatever we were learning. Same idea. But the flute is a beautiful instrument, and there's smaller flutes and there's bigger flutes. This is a really teeny flute called a piccolo. Same thing. It's got all those keys, just a little bit fewer of them than a flute. Let me see if I can back up and hold this so you can see the difference. A flute's pretty small. A piccolo is real small, okay? So if you ever want an instrument that you can kind of carry around with you and it's not real heavy, a flute or a piccolo might be the one for you. Piccolos are not used quite as often because they're very high and they're very loud, and usually there's only one or two of them in a big band or a big orchestra because you don't need very many. Because if you had a lot of piccolos, you might see a lot of piccolos in a marching band because they need a lot of sound that's really loud out on a football field. And piccolos are great for a marching band. But again, you still have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 fingers, okay? My thumb goes back here, my pinkies are right here. I can just kind of hold on to it with this. Here's your lip plate, you're still blowing across it. This I have a hard time making a sound on anymore because you have to use the muscles in your mouth and your face to make it work, and if you don't use them, you lose them. So but I'll try to make a noise for you anyway. It might be bad. Can you see that? Okay, here's me blowing. So I'm blowing across. That's probably a little too close and personal for what you guys want to see, but there you have it. So that's the flute, and I just wanted to give you guys a little bit closer view of these instruments just because I think it's really neat to be able to see what you're seeing in some of these videos and some of these orchestra videos. And so that's the Woodwind family. I'm going to be attaching some videos, by the way, of, some woodwinds. I'm hoping to find some cool versions of some of the songs. So the links that I post along with this video, please click into those and listen to those along with this orchestra session. And then also for something different that I wanted to do today, I've kind of been planning to do this, but I found this cool book at the library in Hayhira called Meet the Orchestra. And so I thought, well, who doesn't like reading a good book? So we're going to read this book together, and that's going to be kind of the last portion of this orchestra session. And then after we finish this, I'll let you guys click into some of those links and listen to some of the videos I've found for you guys to listen to along with this week's orchestra, okay? So this is Meet the Orchestra. I'm going to do my best to keep this in frame here. I can't turn my camera sideways because then it'll look all wonky. I tried that. All right. So here's our orchestra. And it says, the orchestra plays tonight. The audience has arrived. The musicians are coming on stage with their instruments. What a lot of different kinds they play. Strings, woodwinds, brass, and percussion. You see all those there. Okay. Violin. Players with like instruments sit together in families. The violin belongs to the string family, along with the viola, the cello, and the big string bass. You play all of these with a bow or pluck them with your fingers. The violin is the smallest of the string instruments. Its song can be bright as laughter, light as air, soft as a whisper, or sad as a tear. The viola. As instruments get bigger, their voices get lower. The viola looks and sounds like a big brother to the violin. It has a deeper tone reminding you of evening shadows, cloudy skies, and the color blue. Let's see. You see that there? All right. Cello. You can't tuck a cello under your chin the way you do a violin or viola. It is so big you must rest it on the floor. The cello's rich, mellow voice speaks of deep feelings like joy and sadness. It can remind you of the calm beauty of a drifting swan and of the color purple. The string bass. I'm trying to make sure that glare is not on there. The string bass is the grandpapa of the string family. It is so tall that you must stand up or sit on a high stool to play it. When bowed, its low notes moan and groan. When plucked, its booming sound helps other musicians to keep the beat. The flute. The flute belongs to the woodwind family along with the piccolo, oboe, bassoon, and clarinet. You blow into these instruments to play them. At one time, all of them were made of wood. Today, the flute is often made of silver or even of gold. To play the flute, you hold it sideways, tighten your lips, and blow across the air hole. With practice, you can trill like a bird or play slow, quivering notes as cool as a mountain stream. Piccolo. The piccolo, little sister to the flute, loves attention and always gets it. This tiny flute is so shrill you can't help hearing it. Its high notes almost pierce your eardrums. Yet everyone loves the piccolo because it has such a great sense of fun. Oboe. The oboe has a mouthpiece made of reed. The reed can be fussy and troublesome. Then it honks like a goose with a bad cold. But usually the oboe can be trusted. The oboe plays that single note to which the whole orchestra tunes just before the concert begins. Its voice may remind you of faraway castles at sunset, autumn leaves, and the sadness of saying goodbye to someone you love. Bassoon. The bassoon is like a large... Whoa! My light... My light just fell off. Let's see if we can do this better. All right. Let's see if that works. Okay. The bassoon is like a large folded oboe. It also has a reed mouthpiece. Its voice, like its name, has a kind of loneliness. Yet the bassoon can also be playful. It chats and chuckles with the other instruments. You often hear it chugging along like a tough little engine. Can't you almost see puffs of smoke coming out of the top? Clarinets. Here are two different kinds of clarinets. There's this one here and that one there. Okay. Let's see. The straight one is nimble and quick. It tootles up and down the scale, never tripping over a note. Its cool tones melt in your ears just like ice cream melts in your mouth. All right. This very long clarinet is bent at both ends so that it doesn't touch the floor when played. Its low, slow notes may remind you of clouds drifting across the moon or a snake swaying to a snake charmer's music. Okay. And that's the end of the woodwinds. And so I'm going to save the rest because we have brass and percussion. And I'm going to save the rest of this for next week. But I hope that gave you a fun little introduction to some of our orchestra instruments and just let you see those a little bit more in depth. But just like I said, just click the links that I include with this. I have some fun videos that I'm posting along with this. I love you guys. I hope that you have been enjoying this orchestra section, and really I want to just be able to introduce the idea of music and instruments and orchestra as being something that's fun and not boring and not I can't think of the word, but just not tiresome, but it's something that's exciting. And there's lots of ways that if your kids want to get involved in playing an instrument or hearing, more music, there's lots of outlets to do that, even for homeschoolers. But music is a fantastic art, and really I believe that it's a way that God gave us music to express something that words can't really express. And so I hope you guys have enjoyed this orchestra section. We got one more week next week. I hope you have a wonderful, beautiful, safe, healthy week. Love you guys, and I'll see you next week. Bye-bye.